for most people, our largest known expense in retirement is going to be the taxes that we will ultimately have to pay.
Peter, good to see you. We've made it to the top 3 in our countdown to retirement. This is exciting. So today we're going to talk through the 3 biggest retirement expenses and how to control them. So again, there are so many expenses in retirement. These top 3 have to be a part of your plan, or you just may run out of money. So let's get to number 1, which is starting with an income plan, right? The only way to combat the possibility of expenses exceeding assets is to have a written financial plan for retirement that takes all of your income and expenses into account.
Yeah. Otherwise, your expenses could catastrophically exceed your assets, right? This is the fear that we all have of running out of money in retirement when we're no longer planning on earning any more money. So if you would like to address that risk and that fear, you've got to have a plan and you've got to factor in the expenses. And if you have not factored all of these things into your plan in a detailed manner, like that could just be the tip of the iceberg. What else could you be missing that could derail your retirement trajectory and confidence and comfort?
Mm-hmm. Okay, so now let's get into those expenses. First, of course, we have our largest known expense, taxes.
Yeah. For most people, the majority of their retirement money has yet to be taxed. They have not paid income tax on those dollars. When the baby boomer generation for the last 30 to 40 years has been saving for retirement in these accounts that we were told to save in, these 401ks and these IRAs, we were also told, don't pay taxes while you're working, defer and delay them, and they'll be lower in retirement. Well, now that time has come where the can has been kicked down the road, but it can only go so far, and it is time to pay the piper. The IRS has never forgotten and will never forget that deal that you made with them not to pay your taxes when you originally earned the money. Unfortunately, a lot of people have forgotten that tax bill is still there inside of the balance that they're looking at in those accounts. So I call this the gross planning mistake. Don't base everything on the gross numbers for your retirement. Make sure that you factor in the fact that you will need to pay those taxes. The IRS is certainly expecting them, and they can get pretty nasty if you don't pay them. So for most people, our largest known expense in retirement is going to be the taxes that we will ultimately have to pay. Income tax being the biggest one, but that also is really just the tip of the iceberg, because we know we pay an awful lot of different layers of taxes. But don't forget to factor those in. Make sure that you are addressing not just what you have, not just the balance in your account, but how much you actually get to keep, how much you get to spend from that. Don't make that gross planning mistake.
Right. All right, next we have our largest potential expense, which is healthcare. I think, Peter, this expense might be the most overlooked because people assume Medicare is going to cover them.
Yeah, we all have this Superman complex where it's not going to happen to us, or Superwoman, as the case may be. But you know, when we bury our head in the sand like an ostrich, our backside is still exposed, and most people have not planned properly, appropriately, effectively for the potential cost of care. So while taxes are our largest known expense, our largest potential expense are those healthcare related costs. And we recently did the 4 approaches to long-term care on a separate video, Erin, and talked about the fact that the average married couple age 65 will spend over $300,000 just on the routine copays and deductibles and premiums over their life expectancy. That does not even touch the cost of long-term care, because Medicare does not address long-term care. So you're talking about several hundreds of thousands of dollars or more of potential expenses. 7 in 10 people do require some level of care. And I would say probably less than 1 in 9 of us have actually planned effectively for the potential cost that this can can result in. So let's make sure, don't just overlook this. Don't bury your head in the sand. Don't pretend you're Superman or Superwoman. Like, have a plan specifically that addresses the potential cost of healthcare. You've either got to earmark money and set it aside and say, this is my healthcare security blanket, or you've got to have some kind of leverage and protection in place for those costs. You certainly need to discuss this with your planning professional team and your family.
Mm-hmm. And then last, we have the silent thief, which is inflation. I feel like maybe those of us who've actually taken the time to figure out what we are spending in retirement, or even now, you can assume what you are spending now per month, it's not going to be the same 30 years from now.
It certainly wasn't the same 30 or 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
It was much, much more affordable and cheaper. And that silent thief, it's been a roaring lion here over the last 5 or so years, really ever since COVID. Things have gotten significantly more and more expensive. For a while there, it was a factor that we sort of ignored in planning. Do not ignore this in planning. However, I see a lot of people projecting out their retirement timeline and spending habits as though the dollars that they're going to spend on day one of retirement are the same amount of dollars that they are going to need after decade one and decade two and 20 and 30 years into retirement. That is certainly not going to be the case. Inflation historically has crept along at a little over 3%. Well, that means that your expenses double about every 24 years. And that is within the timeline of most people's retirement. And Erin, if I think back 24 years ago, there are a lot of things in my budget today that were not even a factor in my budget 20 to 24 years ago, right? It's not just the things that we buy today getting more expensive, which they will, but it's all of the additional things that we will add on to that budget that needs to be factored in as well. Convenience is costly. And we are in a society of convenience where we pay for services, we pay for convenience, and that is going to cost us more and more money moving forward, especially as we get less and less able to do some of those things for ourselves that we used to do. So just make sure that you are factoring in these three biggest expenses: taxes, healthcare, and inflation. And I see a lot of projections for retirement that don't really factor in any of these. And unfortunately, that is a huge oversight that can derail your confidence, comfort, and lifestyle.
Which comes back to kind of a key message that you and I talk about all the time, Peter, which is why a financial plan is so very different from an investment portfolio. Your investment portfolio isn't going to take these three expenses into account, which again comes back to your first point, which is the importance of having a written income plan.
Yeah. I mean, the 401k has been fantastic. The 401k does not factor in any of these expenses, does not even talk, generally about generating income from the 401k. That's not the purpose of that. And there are plenty of good advisors out there that focus on growth and accumulation and access to the market and rate of return that do not discuss or focus on this time in our financial lives, the phase where we're going to need the money to live off of by making withdrawals. And how much can we withdraw? What are the tools to do that? How can we formulate that income plan? How can we optimize things like Social Security? How can we minimize taxes? How can we protect against the cost of healthcare? Are we factoring in inflation? So again, that's where you bring all of the pieces of the puzzle together. And most of the people I talk to have done a great job in one or two areas, but are missing or have overlooked several other areas in their plan. And I believe in this very, very wholeheartedly that this is important for financial well-being and lasting confidence. So if you are trying to figure out if there's anything that you've overlooked or that there are and you want to make sure that you address them, feel free to give me a call. Again, this is part of our Countdown to Retirement series of reports. You can find that online. You can download it from the website richonplanning.com, go to the resources tab, go to downloads, and then download the Countdown to Retirement. This is number 3, the 3 biggest expenses in retirement. But if you want to apply this information to your situation, situation, if you'd like to have that courtesy review and get your optimized retirement plan put together, like this is not just money, this is not just finance, this is your future. And I want people to live life retired with confidence. So give me a call. We offer this at no cost, that complimentary review, that strategy session, and we will put together for you a personalized, optimized retirement plan. 919-300-5886 is the number to call, 919-300-5886. But please do not forget to include these 3 largest expenses of retirement when you are mapping out and projecting your plan for how to live life retired.
Mm-hmm. And reminding everybody that they can catch the other countdown to retirements on your YouTube channel as we make our way to number 1 and 2, which I am very much looking forward to. Peter, thank you for your time today.
Always a pleasure, Erin. Thank you. Hey folks, Peter Richon here with Richon Planning. So glad that you are enjoying the podcast, Planning Matters Radio. You know, one of the tools that we've put out there that people really seem to appreciate and really are finding of value is at 919retired.com. It is your retirement tax bill calculator. If you've got any kind of retirement account, your tax deferred, 401k or IRA, this is the website, this is the resource where you can go, you can plug in your own numbers, your information, you can slide the tool calculator up and down for your tax rate or your amount of savings and see what your tax bill is likely to be if you default and defer to the IRS's plan versus what you could potentially bring that tax bill down to. A lot of times it is a very significant savings. So if you have not yet, go to the website 919retired.com, run your numbers on the retirement tax bill calculator.
This has been Planning Matters Radio.
The content of this radio show is provided for informational purposes only and is not a solicitation or recommendation of any investment strategy. You are encouraged to seek investment, tax, or legal advice from an independent professional advisor. Any investments and/or investment strategies mentioned involve risk, including the possible loss of principal. Advisory services offered through Brookstone Capital Management, a registered investment advisor.
Fiduciary duty extends solely to investment advisory advice and does not extend to other activities such as insurance or broker-dealer services. Advisory clients are charged a quarterly fee for assets under management, while insurance products pay a commission, which may result in a conflict of interest regarding compensation.